Distinguished members of the press, at the outset, I wish to express my gratitude to the Secretary-General, His Excellency António Guterres, for holding this trilateral meeting with my Greek Cypriot counterpart and the courtesy and hospitality he has extended to us here in New York, as well as for his continued interest in the Cyprus issue. My participation here today is a clear demonstration of my readiness to remain engaged in dialogue to further people-to-people contacts between the Turkish Cypriot people and the Greek Cypriot people. Since the informal 5+1 meetings held in Geneva and New York under the auspices of the UN Secretary-General, I have consistently put forth my constructive proposals taking into consideration the interests of both sides on the island. As is well known, negotiations based on a federal model have all but ended without a solution. These repeated failures have shown beyond no doubt that such a basis had been exhausted, and in order to reach a solution in Cyprus, another path needed to be pursued. Another page had to be opened, which I did in April 2021 in Geneva. With these thoughts in mind, I had put forward a new and realistic vision that is based on sovereign equality and equal international status that envisages two states coexisting side by side as good neighbors in a cooperative relationship. Change will come when the rules of the game are changed. I call upon the international community to discern the real intentions of the Greek Cypriot side, whose leader stood before the General Assembly a few days ago, uttering words of intolerance, hostility, and insults. In the absence of common ground for the start of new and formal negotiations, I have over the past 5 years presented in good faith practical cooperation initiatives, ranging from proposals on energy, trade, tourism, and the environment, to humanitarian and trust-building measures. These are designed to foster cooperation, improve daily life, and bring tangible benefits to both the Turkish Cypriot and the Greek Cypriot people. I invite countries interested in the Cyprus issue to lend their support to more meaningful and ambitious initiatives by urging the Greek Cypriot side to be more forthcoming. During our discussions today, I once more emphasized my sincere commitment to opening additional border crossing points, in particular at Haspolat and Akıncılar. Such steps would make everyday life easier for ordinary people, alleviating the congestion at the Metehan crossing point that is causing hardship to both of our peoples. In other words, to both Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, because when you look at the numbers, there are as many Greek Cypriots crossing border as Turkish Cypriots. Therefore, congestion at the gates also causes frustration for Greek Cypriots as well as Turkish Cypriots. Therefore, opening new crossing points would also relieve and help Greek Cypriot businessmen and ordinary people crossing the border to the north. The opening of new border crossing will, as I reiterated my long-standing position today, enhance people-to-people contact and demonstrate the real advantages of cooperation. I also reiterated my readiness to move forward on the 4 new initiatives agreed in New York last July. On the exchange of cultural artifacts, we stand ready to proceed once the curating process has been completed. On microplastic pollution, I propose the involvement of experts within a subcommittee of the technical committee with possible cooperation from relevant UN agencies. On air quality management, I have stated that our focus should be on regional challenges, such as Saharan dust clouds, which have direct consequences for public health, tourism, and the environment. Therefore, if we can cooperate in all these initiatives, that would reflect positively, not only on Turkish Cypriots, but also on Greek Cypriots, because we are living in one of the most beautiful islands in the Eastern Mediterranean, and therefore it is very urgent that we cooperate in matters of this significance to prevent the danger to our health and also to preserve our good environment. On civil society engagement, we should involve organizations in implementing these initiatives, with their role expanding as cooperation deepens. These undertakings reflect my conviction that cooperation between the two sides must not remain symbolic, but grow into meaningful projects in areas such as energy, water, trade, electricity interconnection, and tourism. In short, I believe that our people deserve progress that improves their daily lives. However, I must also speak candidly. There is a troubling inconsistency between the words and deeds of the Greek Cypriot leadership. Since the appointment of the Special Envoy, we have seen arrests, the targeting of states that engage with us, the misuse of INTERPOL mechanisms, the rejection of assistance we offered during the Limassol fire, and obstructions regarding new crossings. Meanwhile, investment in armaments continues. These actions certainly do not serve to build trust and stability or enhancing people-to-people contacts, but further tension. I have today reaffirmed my commitment to maintaining a constructive and positive stance. I will continue to pursue initiatives that create a genuine atmosphere of cooperation, and I look forward to the convening of a new round of 5+1 informal talks before the end of this year, ideally at a location that does not require another long transatlantic journey. Ladies and gentlemen, 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly comes at a time of continuing conflicts and crises, particularly in the Middle East. I would also like to reiterate my sincere gratitude to His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has once again, in his address to the UN General Assembly last Tuesday, called upon the international community to internationally recognize the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and to put an end to the unfair and inhumane isolation that the Turkish Cypriots have been subjected to for more than half a century. His principled appeal for fairness and formal recognition is deeply appreciated by my people. The Turkish Cypriot people are determined to move forward with dignity, equality, and the spirit of cooperation. My firm belief is that through realism, mutual respect, and recognition of our sovereign equality and equal international status, we can create a future of stability and prosperity for both the Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot peoples. Thank you very much for listening to me. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Yes.
Cyprus Broadcasting Corporation. Was today's meeting your last chance to convince the Turkish Cypriots to vote for you?
Well, the election is on the 19th of October. I've been working positively and I believe very successfully in the last 5 years. So it will be up to my people to vote me in again. I hope that they will, because there are series of the issues to be negotiated. And I am happy that I was here to meet the Secretary-General and the Greek Cypriot leader. And we agreed that we will be meeting again before the end of the year in a 5+1 format meeting. So there are issues that are continuing, and I hope that my people will give me another consent so that I can continue the work that I have been doing in the last 5 years.
So you're optimistic for the results?
I am very optimistic, yes.
Mr. President, as you told, Turkish Republic President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been calling the states in United Nations to recognize Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. How can the Greek Cypriot side be convinced to have a two-state solution? As you said, that all the other ways have been exhausted and there must be a new approach. And how can the isolation of Turkish Cypriots can be ended? Do you see any green light after today's meeting?
This is a long-term struggle, and I think, as you have been all following, the Turkish Cypriots have been very, very, very unfairly treated, because we are co-founders of the Republic of Cyprus. According to the Constitution, we are as sovereign as Greek Cypriots, but after the 1963 events, they have stolen the Republic of Cyprus from us, and we were basically kicked out. And since then, we have founded our own state, and now we have the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, founded by our late President, Mr. Denktaş, in 1983, and it's been a long struggle. Since then, I think it's been quite apparent that to find a solution in a federal model has been absolutely devastating. No hope, because our Greek Cypriot friends refused the Annan plan. In 2017, at Crans-Montana, again, the talks failed miserably, and we have decided, obviously, I have consulted Turkey, my motherland, that we should open a new page with a new vision. Otherwise, talks with a federal basis will continue with no hope, and this will be effectively meaning that the Turkish Cypriots will be losing time. So in the last 5 years, we have proposed to the world leaders, the United Nations, and all the interested parties that the new vision would be the reaffirmation. I'm not saying recognition, I'm saying reaffirmation, because it's a right, inherent right, which exists since the 1960 agreement, that the Turkish Cypriots are as sovereign as Greek Cypriots, and therefore it is our right that our sovereign equality and equal international status should be reaffirmed before any serious negotiations. And we are still maintaining the same position. I'm ready to start negotiations formally, so long as Greek Cypriots reaffirm our sovereignty rights, which is, in technical terms, sovereign equality and equal international status. But obviously, they resist to do that. And I asked them through Maria Holguin 2 years ago that if they are ready to grant us direct trade, direct flight, direct contacts, these 3Ds, as we call them 3Ds, then we would, as a practical measure, be in a position to restart negotiations. They have also refused to do that. Therefore, we have not been able to have some progress. However, I feel that we have done our best for our community, for the Turkish Cypriot people, because we have been able to change the rules of the game. The rules of the game, until I was elected, was basically for the Turkish Cypriots in a position to be just to waste time, called to the negotiating table to discuss federation, with no hope, because Greek Cypriots are a recognized government. And after the Annan plan, which was very unfair to us, they have been admitted unilaterally into the European Union, which they shouldn't have been, because in the Cyprus constitution it says quite clearly that unless Turkey and Greece are members of the same bloc, then Cyprus cannot join that. Turkey is not a member of the European Union. So how was Cyprus unilaterally, without consulting Turkey, without consulting Turkish Cypriots, co-founders of the Republic of Cyprus, that the Greek Cypriots were entered into the European Union? So all the rules of the game were abused against Turkish Cypriots. We feel very let down by the international community and by the Europeans. However, we should be positive, we should be constructive, and look forward to the future. And that's what we've been doing. Therefore, we are now expecting our Greek Cypriot friends to once more reconsider the position in Cyprus. And since 1963, we have had 62 years. Can you imagine? 62 years, Turkish Cypriots have been running their own state of affairs, with our own parliament, with our own government, with our own judiciary. We have all the faculties and institutions that you would have in any form of state. And we have had 62 years, and we have gone a long way. Therefore, we cannot turn the clock back. So we expect the international community to make some pressure on the Greek Cypriots so that we can practically find a way forward, positively and constructively.
Temmuz'daki görüşme oranla Rumelilerin tavrında bir değişiklik, bir yumuşama gördünüz mü?
Today, it was more basically what they call a stock taking, what the latest position is. We have not been able to go into the matters very much, but I tried to go into the crossing gates and into some other titles that we discussed in March and in July. And I made the point to the Secretary-General that I will be here before the end of the year, and I am ready to discuss all the topics that have been proposed so that we can cooperate on all issues, and we should develop this cooperational culture, which is very, I think, sensible cooperational culture in all ways of life, including electricity, water, criminal matters, environment matters, cultural heritage, on all subjects that we can discuss so that we can achieve results for the better quality life of all Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, including these crossing gates. Because obviously it will take a while until what we say common ground has to evolve for serious formal negotiations. That will take some time. So until that time, we should use our time to take some measures to achieve results for better quality of life for both Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. Any more questions? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.